Continue our coverage of the big story this morning. The Justice Department is investigating the mass shooting at the Dollar General in Newtown as a hate crime. 3 manifestos left by the shooter detail the man's hatred for black people. The FBI has been closely watching a surge in hate crimes, with the majority linked to race, ethnicity, or ancestry. Joining us this morning is retired FBI special agent and former prosecutor Alex Silverstein. Good morning to you. I know that you are recently retired, within 5 months from the FBI, and certainly investigating hate crimes and incidents like this was in your wheelhouse, something that you did routinely throughout your career.
Yes, and thank you very much for having me this morning. Over the number of years, unfortunately, I've participated in investigations that involve mass shootings throughout the United States and in Florida.
What does it take for an investigation like that? Obviously, when we see something like this, such a tragedy, authorities come in from all over. You've got the local, the state, and the federal agencies working together. On the FBI's part, they're looking into this as a hate crime. What does that mean as far as the investigation?
What it means for the investigation is that there's federal jurisdiction, that the FBI and the Department of Justice actually have jurisdiction over the crime. A lot of times when you have state crimes such as homicides or rapes, there's no actual federal jurisdiction. But when there's a question of either domestic terrorism or a civil rights violation, then the federal government does have jurisdiction over it. And that's where the FBI and federal resources come into play. No matter what, though, if our state and local partners ask for help, the FBI is going to respond.
We have a case here where the shooter is dead. What is there to do with the investigation still?
It's very, very important to make sure that we stop the next attack. So learning everything we can about this individual becomes clearly important, so we can learn who was talking to him, was anybody helping him, wittingly or unwittingly, so as to determine, is there a follow-on attack coming? Are there other people that share his ideology and his motivation so that they're going to plan the next attack?
What are the red flags that you have seen in attacks like this throughout your career?
It's impossible to come up with one profile for shooters. Oftentimes, it's a fixation on an ideology that is filled with hate and not grounded in reason, whether it is racial, based on race, whether it's based on ethnicity, whether it's based on sexual preference or identity or religion. So it is based on what many of us would consider to be an absolutely unreasonable ideology. That's one of the cornerstones.
Alex, are you concerned right now about a rise in hate crimes here in the United States? There's more and more reports that we are dealing with right now.
I'm very concerned about the rise in hate-filled rhetoric. I believe that most of the people in the Jacksonville area, Florida, and the United States are good people, and that they don't ascribe to this. What I'm very concerned about is the rise of this rhetoric, and that the people who have a predilection for violence or may have maybe in a mental health crisis may be spurned to violence because of this hate-filled rhetoric.
I know that you and I have had conversations before you first responded to the 9/11 attacks at the Pentagon. You've done the case of the DC Sniper Pulse nightclub in Orlando, the Pensacola shooting at the naval base there. Is there any kind of commonality in the thought process of these attackers?
Once again, it's that fixation on an ideology that defies all reason. It's madness. And unfortunately, there's never any shortage of madness anywhere in the world.
Finally, what do we do to protect ourselves as community members? The sheriff said many times, if you see something, say something. He wants people to come forward, and the federal authorities are echoing that.
And I'll echo it as well. There's nothing more important than giving information to law enforcement when we think something is wrong. If something seems off, if something makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, you've got to report that to law enforcement. The other part is, as a community, we need to be prepared. These are the worst case scenarios, but we need to be prepared ourselves to deal with it, because that way we won't be nearly as afraid.
Former FBI Special Agent Alex Silverstein, thank you for your time this morning, and we appreciate your expertise.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we will be right back.